Oakwood Springs, Texas, a quiet, unassuming town nestled in the heart of the state. The kind of place where porch lights illuminate the stillness of the night, where children ride their bikes down streets lined with picket fences, and where neighbors exchange friendly waves as they pass. A town so small, everyone knew everyone else's business. Or so they thought. But beneath its tranquil facade, in the sweltering heat of July 2024, a horrifying truth was uncovered. A single day shattered the town's peaceful existence, unveiling the dark secrets hidden behind closed doors. At the center of it all was an 11-year-old girl named Zoe, whose life would be changed forever. This is her story, a tale of innocence betrayed, unimaginable tragedy, and the unyielding love of a mother willing to sacrifice everything to protect her child. What happens when the people you trust the most betray you in the worst way? How far would a parent go to shield their child from harm? In the case of Zoe Carter, these questions weren't hypothetical, they were her reality. If you're new to Vic's True Crime Stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon to stay updated with in-depth true crime breakdowns. And if this story resonates with you, share the link with friends who are passionate about gripping real-life mysteries. Now, let's unravel the tragic events that rocked Oakwood Springs and left a mark that will never fade. For as long as I can remember, my mom, Vanessa, was my hero. She wore her badge with pride, and when people spoke about her in town, it was always with admiration. Sheriff Carter, strong, fearless, and always fair. To me, though, she was just Mom, the one who always kissed my forehead before bed, who coached my little league team even when her work kept her late, and who always promised to protect me, no matter what. Then there was my dad, Derek. Everyone in Oakwood Springs loved him. He was the high school football coach, the kind of person who never missed a chance to crack a joke or lend a helping hand. At home, he would play catch with me in the yard, or take me for ice cream on hot summer afternoons. To everyone else, we were the perfect family. But looking back, there were things I didn't understand, things I couldn't put into words. A shadow that seemed to linger in the spaces between us. Oakwood Springs itself was like something out of a postcard. A small, sleepy town where time seemed to stand still. Everyone knew your name and greeted you with a wave. My mom worked tirelessly to keep it safe. She wasn't just the sheriff, she was a fixture in the community. People trusted her to handle everything from lost pets to town disputes, and she did it all with grace and strength. She hadn't grown up in a place like this, though. She came from the gritty streets of Houston, where she'd seen the worst of humanity firsthand. Her father was killed when she was just 12, and from that moment on, she dedicated her life to protecting others. She climbed the ranks of law enforcement in Houston, but what she really wanted was a place where she could make a difference, where she could know every face and name in the community. Oakwood Springs became her home, and soon, the people here came to love her just as much as I did. But things weren't always as perfect as they seemed. I didn't notice it at first, but my mom started working later and later. She'd miss family dinners, and when she was home, she seemed distracted. My dad, on the other hand, started spending more and more time with me. He insisted on walking me to school every morning and tucking me in every night. To everyone else, it probably looked like a dad stepping up while Mom was busy, but to me, it felt different. I just didn't know why. At night, I'd hear their voices behind closed doors, their arguments muffled but tense. My mom's voice, usually calm and steady, sounded sharp, full of frustration. My dad's voice was different too, defensive, like he was hiding something. But I was just a kid, and I didn't know how to ask questions about what I was feeling. All I knew was that the laughter in our house wasn't as frequent anymore. And when my mom promised to keep me safe, the words didn't feel as warm as they once did. I didn't know why Mom wasn't home for dinner anymore. She'd always been busy with work, but now, it was different. She'd leave before I woke up and come home long after I was asleep. When I did see her, she looked so tired, like she was carrying a weight I couldn't understand. At first, I thought it was because of her job. Being sheriff was stressful, but it wasn't just that. Something else was wrong, though I didn't know what. Then there was Dad. He started walking me to school every morning, saying he didn't want me biking alone anymore. At first, I thought it was nice. He said it was because he cared, but after a while, it started to feel strange. He was always there, watching, hovering. I didn't know why it made me feel uneasy. It was like a silent shadow had crept into our house, and I didn't know how to make it go away. As the weeks went by, I stopped talking as much. I didn't feel like myself anymore. At school, I'd sit at my desk and stare out the window, barely hearing my teacher's voice. My grades started slipping, and I stopped raising my hand in class. My friends would invite me to play during recess, but I always said I didn't feel like it. I felt like I was disappearing, little by little, and no one seemed to notice. Except for my art. That was the only thing I could focus on. I started drawing all the time, but my pictures weren't happy like they used to be. They were dark. Shadows and storms. Sometimes I'd draw a little girl standing alone in a room, her face hidden, her hands reaching for something she couldn't find. My teachers asked me about my drawings once, but I told them they were just stories I made up. It was easier to lie. Even my mom's best friend, Sarah Johnson, noticed that something wasn't right. Sarah was a deputy at the station and one of the few people my mom trusted completely. She'd been coming around the house more often, checking in on Mom. I'd see her glance at me sometimes, her eyes full of questions. I heard her talking to Mom in hushed tones once, saying things like, "You need to talk to someone, and this isn't like you, Vanessa." But Mom would just brush her off, saying everything was fine. I don't think Sarah believed her. Looking back, I think Sarah knew something was wrong, but she didn't know what. How could she? No one really knew what was happening behind the doors of our house. Not even me. What do you think Zoe was trying to communicate through her art? Were her drawings an unspoken cry for help? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you know someone who loves true crime storytelling, share this video with them. This is Vic's True Crime Stories, and we're just getting started. July 15th, 2024, started like any other summer day. I was excited to see my best friend. We'd planned a playdate, and I'd been looking forward to it all week. I remember asking Dad if I could leave early, but something about the way he looked at me made my stomach twist. He said no, that I needed to stay home for the day. When I asked why, His smile didn't feel right. It didn't feel like the smiles he used to give me when we'd go out for ice cream. This one felt forced, wrong. I didn't argue. I didn't want to upset him. Instead, I went up to my room and closed the door. My favorite cartoons were playing in the background, but I couldn't focus. There was a heaviness in the air that I couldn't shake. I stared at my sketchbook, but even drawing didn't help that day. Something about the silence in the house made me feel small and scared. Hours passed, and I stayed in my room. Then I heard the door open downstairs. Mom was home early, which almost never happened. I remember the sound of her footsteps, fast and heavy, as if she knew something was wrong. I heard her call out for me and Dad, but no one answered. My heart started pounding. I didn't know why, but I felt like I couldn't breathe. The door to my room creaked open, and then everything changed. I froze. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't move. Dad was there, standing too close, his hand where it should never have been. I didn't understand what was happening, but I knew it wasn't right. My mind felt blank, my body like it wasn't my own. I stared at the door, hoping someone would come, hoping someone would save me. Then she appeared. Her face wasn't like I'd ever seen it before. It wasn't the warm, kind face that tucked me in at night or smiled when I showed her my drawings. This time, she looked fierce, like a lion protecting its cub. For the first time, I saw her as something more than my mom. She was my protector. Everything happened so fast. Mom told me to go to the neighbors. I didn't ask questions. I just ran. My legs felt like jelly, but I didn't stop until I was at their door. Mrs. Johnson opened it, and I remember trying to speak, but the words wouldn't come out. She must have known something was wrong because she pulled me inside and held me close. Then the sound came. Loud bangs, one after another. I knew it was Mom's gun. I didn't know if she was okay, or if she'd been hurt. I didn't know if I'd ever see her again. All I could do was sit there and wait. Wait to hear what had happened. Wait to see if my life would ever go back to the way it was. Stories like this are heartbreaking, but they're important to tell. If you're finding Zoe's story as powerful as we are, make sure to hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you don't miss future episodes of Vic's True Crime Stories. And if you know someone who would appreciate this gripping narrative, share the link with them. We're here to bring untold stories to light. After that day, nothing was the same. I didn't go back to our house. They told me I wouldn't have to, but I didn't want to anyway. It didn't feel like home anymore, not after what happened. Instead, I stayed with a foster family, people I didn't know, in a house that smelled different and felt unfamiliar. They were kind, but it wasn't the same. I missed Mom. I missed how things used to be, even though I knew they could never be like that again. They took me to see a therapist, a woman with a soft voice and gentle eyes who said I could talk to her about anything. But I didn't know how to talk about the things I felt. How could I? I didn't even have the words for them. She told me I was strong, but I didn't feel strong. I felt broken. scared, alone. Then, one day, she gave me a sketchbook. "Draw what you're feeling," she said. At first, I didn't know what to draw. My pictures were still dark, shadowy figures, stormy skies. But the more I drew, the less heavy I felt. Slowly, the shadows in my pictures started to fade. I began drawing things that made me feel safe, like Mom's face or the sun shining over a field. It wasn't easy, but it helped. Little by little, I started to feel like me again. While I was in therapy, Mom was in jail, waiting for her trial to begin. I didn't get to see her much. They said it was because of the case, but I didn't understand why. All I knew was that the one person who had always promised to protect me was gone, and I didn't know if she was coming back. When the trial finally started, everyone in town was talking about it. Some people said Mom was a hero, that she'd done what any parent would do. Others said she was wrong, that as a sheriff, she should have known better than to take the law into her own hands. It felt like the whole world was watching, waiting to see what would happen. They asked me to testify. I didn't want to at first. The idea of talking about what happened in front of strangers made me want to hide. But they said I could do it from another room, through a camera, so I wouldn't have to see anyone. I remember sitting in that room, my hands shaking, staring at the screen. I told them about the things Dad had done, about how scared I'd been, and about how Mom had saved me. I told them everything. The courtroom was silent when I finished. They told me later that some of the jurors were crying. I don't know if what I said made a difference, but I hoped it did. I hoped they could understand why Mom did what she did. The town was divided. Some people said Mom should go to prison, that what she did was murder, no matter the reason. Others said she deserved a medal, that she'd done what any parent would have done. It felt like everyone had an opinion, and none of them understood what it was like to be me, or to be her. After days of arguments, the jury finally made their decision. I wasn't allowed to be in the courtroom, but they told me what happened later. The verdict: not guilty by reason of temporary insanity. Mom wouldn't go to prison, but she wouldn't come home right away either. She had to go to a hospital for treatment. They said it was for her own good, but it still felt like I was losing her again. Do you think Vanessa's actions were justified? Should the law make exceptions for parents protecting their children? Tell us what you think in the comments. Your perspective matters, and we'd love to hear it. And if you're finding Zoe's story compelling, make sure to subscribe to Vic's True Crime Stories for more in-depth narratives like this one. Share this video with anyone who loves true crime stories that explore the complex sides of justice. Zoe's story is a reminder of the strength it takes to rebuild after tragedy and the lengths a parent will go to protect their child. It's a story of love, pain, and the fight for justice in the face of unimaginable betrayal. But it's also a story of hope, of healing one step at a time, even when the road ahead feels impossible. If this story moved you as much as it moved us, make sure to subscribe to Vic's True Crime Stories. Hit that bell icon to stay updated with more gripping and heartfelt narratives that shine a light on the untold struggles behind the headlines. And don't keep this story to yourself. Share it with your friends and family who appreciate stories of resilience and justice. Together, we can keep these important conversations alive. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.